All right, good morning. Lesson number 4 in our study books. It's September 27th. It's officially fall, right? Officially. This morning we are on lesson number 4. That is page 25. And to jog our memories and to get our minds woken up and going this morning, what is the broad topic? What's the large topic we're talking about in this whole quarter, this fall quarter? Miracles of who? Jesus, specifically. More to the point, the miracles of Jesus. We've talked about it already, but just to remind us, what did we say that a miracle is? Yes, sir. Something that cannot be explained by natural or scientific law. So then what's not a miracle? Yeah. Something that happens a lot. Something that can be explained by natural or scientific law. And as we said last week, no matter how amazing, how wonderful, or timely, serendipitous, awe-inspiring, how amazing something is, just because it was the right thing at the right time that you needed, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a miracle. So big if it can be explained and does not defy nature and science's reasoning and understanding, then it's not a miracle. And again, we are studying the miracles of Jesus. And why did Jesus perform miracles?
To prove his authority.
Yes, all that. To show his power, to prove his authority. So that's some of the reasons for miracles, some of the purposes. Of course, when he healed people, it was to heal. It was to help those people. When he raised those people from the dead, it was to raise them from the dead. And to show the love, strength, and the power of God. So if it was to show the love, strength, and power of God, then there must be a purpose more than that. Right? There must be a purpose more than just to show it. What is that to instill in the person that sees or witnesses the miracle or reads of the miracle? What's my question? I believe. Oh, that was one of my crazy questions. I was trying to get it out. Do what?
Believe in the works. He talked about people who didn't believe in his name, and then he asked them to believe in the works, the things that they saw.
Yes.
He also said something about the Father giving him those works as works of righteousness, that he might give God glory.
Yes.
Proven prophecy.
So it was for some of the people to get their attention, but to instill the belief in it, to instill faith. And faith in, as we said, in the one from which the power came from, whose power, whose authority was everything done by. God the Father. And of course that's the one. It came from the one, that's God the Father. This morning we have 2 sets of verses, and both come from the book of Matthew. Matthew, of course, being the first book in the New Testament, and it was penned by who? Matthew. Softball questions. Around AD 60 to 65. And there's lots of stuff going on in Matthew's, both chapter 8 and 14, where our 2 verses are. But this morning we're going to be focusing on the winds and the waves. Matthew chapter 8 begins where Jesus cleanses a leper. Jesus heals a centurion's servant. We see where Peter's mother-in-law is healed, and then many more are healed later on that evening, and then see the cost of discipleship, where Jesus says, "Let the dead bury the dead." That brings us to our topic this morning. Wind and wave obey Jesus. Would someone read verses, Matthew 8, read verses 23 and 24, please.
And when he got into a boat with his suddenly a great tempest arose on the sea, so that the boat was covered with the waves, but he was asleep.
Thank you. So we got into a what? Where are boats usually? On the water. So it begs the question, what water? Where were they?
Galilee.
Galilee. The Sea of Galilee.
It's the only place that people couldn't follow it, couldn't chase after it.
And we see that, we're getting that a little bit later on in our next set of verses. Of Jesus' need to be alone, or away, I should say, away from other people so he can be alone with God. Yes. About the Sea of Galilee, right on the introduction on page 26. Well, I can read that. First paragraph in the introduction. Most of Jesus' public ministry took place in and around the Sea of Galilee. This body of water is approximately 12.5 miles long, 7.5 miles wide at its greatest breadth. Located in the northern portion of the Jordan Valley, it is sometimes referred to as the Sea of Tiberias or the Lake of Gennesaret. Capernaum, which is presumably where Jesus lived during his portion of his life, is located on its shore.
12 miles and 7.5 miles does not seem that long on land. It is forever in a boat.
Yes, it is. And I think I have this somewhere else, but I can't remember.
Especially if you don't have water.
It said a boat. What size boat comes to mind? Or do we know it that they were on? Likely. Was it a yacht?
No.
Was it a barge?
No.
Was it big? It might have been this long. It might have been from here to here.
I think it was probably a fishing boat, a pretty good-sized fishing boat. Not just a two-person, two-seater.
Yeah. I mean,
There was a lot of folks on it.
yeah, we see how many people were on there. So, and they had to have room for fish and for their gear and stuff. But I mean,
But we don't know.
we don't know specifically. But we're not talking about a very, very large boat. Something else about the Sea of Galilee, it's the lowest freshwater lake in the world, so it's in a bowl. It's very low and it has mountains all around it. Storms would pop up quickly in there. And since it's big enough compared to a boat, but it's small for a body of water, when a storm came, it would make the entire lake go all over the place. So when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. I found that curious. What were most of these disciples by trade?
Fishermen?
Fishermen. What was Jesus by trade?
Carpenter.
So the fishermen followed the carpenter onto a boat. So Jesus got into the boat first in spite of the worldly expertise of the disciples in the boating world. 24, and suddenly, that means all at once, a great tempest. What's a tempest? A storm. A great tempest, so a really bad storm, arose on the sea so that the boat was covered with the waves. But what?
He was asleep.
Jesus was asleep. So, and our book brings this out, we can compare a great tempest versus a sleeping Jesus. It's
That right there might just attest to how tired he was.
well, we saw what he's been doing before this. Yes. So commercial fishermen were getting very upset out on and the carpenter was sleeping. Were these fishermen experienced on this very body of water? Yes. What does it say if they are nervous and worried? It was bad. A great tempest. This was a very bad storm. This was not like a little cloud that came by or just a little storm. This was very bad. It was enough to alarm them. Verse 25, then his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, what? Lord, save us, we are perishing. It must have been a really bad storm. Bad enough for the experienced fishermen to come and wake Jesus. But he said to them, why are you fearful, O you of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and sea, and there was a great calm. We compare the great calm to the great tempest. Jesus said to them, why are you fearful, O you of little faith? What can we say of fear and faith?
They're opposites. Lack of faith. Fear is lack of faith.
Yes. They are oil and water. We're going to see that again. They do not mix. Fear and faith do not mix. On the top of page 28, somewhere around the middle of that paragraph on the top of page 28, the most critical concern that faces Jesus' disciples is not potential persecutions or disasters. Rather, it is the quality of their faith, which is directly proportionate to the accuracy of their perception of Jesus, the object of their faith. 26, then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. He arose, so he was sleeping soundly. It wasn't like he was propped off. He was laying down asleep in this big storm. What does it mean to rebuke?
Got on to them.
Got onto him.
Scold.
Yes. Definition is express sharp disapproval or criticism of due to behavior or actions. Yes, sir.
I think probably the key word is quality. Because when it said, Lord save us, they had something.
Yes, they did.
They expected him to do something, but they didn't expect that.
Yeah.
They gave them a little bit of credit. They gave little faith.
Little faith.
This is true. That's a very good point. They did go to their master and said,
Colin,
yes, ma'am.
what you read a minute ago really made me think during the lesson when I was reading. Jesus expects us to have different amounts of faith through our lives. And I had not really thought about that a whole lot.
Yes, he does.
There are times when you should be of great faith, and of course a mature Christian should be
Mhm.
of great faith. Whereas, they are relatively new as disciples.
That's a very good point. You see that throughout the Bible in Jesus' interactions with different people. Some people, had it been someone else doing the same thing, he would have said, why are you failing like this, or what little faith? But other people, it's a walk, it's a journey. Yes, very good point. So he rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Not so great calm, meaning not just the passing of the storm, not that it's over there and we're here. It was all gone. Poof, every bit of it. So the men marveled, saying, what does it mean to marvel?
Wonder at.
Yes, wonderment, astonishment. They had never seen that before. So the men marveled, saying, who can this be that even the winds and the sea obey him? They'd never seen that before. Even in all of their time on the Sea of Galilee, that was inexplicable to them. It defied their understanding. It defied what they had seen before. What did we say a miracle was? Something that defines the law of nature. Was this a miracle?
Yes.
Yes. Next set of verses quickly. Sorry, time is going quickly. Unless anyone has anything else this morning on that. Next set of verses are in Matthew 14. Earlier in Matthew 14, we see where John the Baptist is beheaded, and then we see the feeding of the 5,000, and then Jesus walks on the sea, which is our verses. And what sea, again, did we say? Yes, Sea of Galilee. 12.5 miles long at its longest, 7.5 miles wide at its widest. Will someone read Matthew 14, verses 22 and 23, please?
Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there.
Thank you. Immediately, Jesus made his disciples to go into the boat and go before him to where? The other side of what?
The Sea of Galilee.
The Sea of Galilee. Now, it's 7.5 miles wide at its widest, and we're assuming from here to here, but we don't know where they were starting and we don't know where they were ending. But like you were saying, if you're out in the middle of that, it's a long way. You probably can't see, well, they could probably see the mountains around them from there since they're so tall, but they were they were a long way away from the safety of the shore. And that's where he told them to go, from here to there, to the other side. So he sent the multitudes away. And when he sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. This touches on what we were speaking to earlier. He went to pray by himself, not to be seen of others, but to be alone with God in prayer. Now when evening came, he was alone there. How long had he probably been there praying?
All day. From when he left.
As long as it took. It wasn't 2 minutes, 5 minutes. He was there for a long time, for many hours at least, with God the Father in prayer. Will someone please read 24, 25, and 26, please? Thank you. 24, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. I have been accused of being contrary. But, well, 2 people in this room. One of them just walked out. What does contrary mean? Just come back with a one-word answer. I'm up here trying to speak, and she's just difficult. Contrary to, opposite, in opposition to what you want. So when a child is being contrary, he's not obeying his parents. When the boat was now in the middle of the sea, so whether it's here or there, if they went out when the storm, or when this was going on, when the winds was like this, or they got out in the middle and the winds hit them, we don't know. But the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Contrary, opposite in nature, direction or meaning, opposing, conflicting, difficult, incompatible. They were sailing into the wind. They were sailing into the wind and into the water. The disciples were trying to go across, but the wind was not in their favor, so to speak. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them walking on the sea.
Morning.
What? I mean, that's a really short verse. How do you cross water unless you're going for the Guinness Book of World Record? You swim. You go in a boat or you swim. You don't walk on it. In the fourth watch of the night, about what time is that? 3 to 6. Morning people call that morning. Night people call that bedtime. That's my bedtime. But the fourth watch of the night, that's 3 to 6 in the morning. That's also called, some people call that the witching hour. That's when it's really dark and still and calm, other than this storm going on for them. So Jesus went to them walking on the sea. So can anyone else do that? No. The disciples couldn't get across in a boat, but Jesus was walking. That is contrary to nature. Is that a miracle? Yes. 26, and when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled. I had to underline that twice. That's the understatement of the year. Would you be troubled?
Yes, they couldn't figure it out.
Mm-hmm. I would come out of my skin. They were likely tired because they were fighting the weather. It was dark. Then they saw the impossible, right? So what else would or could they say except for what? It's a ghost. And they cried out for what's contrary to faith? Fear. And they cried out for fear. Fear and faith don't mix well. Verse 27, but immediately, it's the first time we're going to see immediately here again. Immediately Jesus spoke to them saying, be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid. Will someone read verses 28 and 29, please?
And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is, you command me to come to you on the water. So he said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus.
Thank you. Who else could it have been other than Peter? Of course it was Peter. Peter, huh? It's always Peter. And Peter answered Jesus saying, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to the water. So Jesus said, come. He just said, he didn't, once again, it's just like last week, when he told the little girl, he said, arise. He didn't speak along, he just said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Our book brings this out, and I know we spoke about this last week. Faith without works is what? If you don't have works, is it really faith? Faith in action, our book brings out, has three parts to it. God spoke, man hears, man obeys. If you don't have actions because of your faith, if we don't have actions because of our faith, then it's just words and it's not really faith. So, is Peter showing faith here? When was the last time Peter had walked on the water?
He is right there.
It was right here. Before this, never. That's faith. Do this, okay. He didn't start off by saying, I'm going to fall. I'm going to sink. That's not how he started. Verse 30, but when he saw... But. It's not good when you start out with but. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. Boisterous, meaning what? Loud, wild, stormy, blustery, tempestuous. Had it been like that before he walked out on the water? Who was he paying attention to before? Jesus. So he gets out there and second guesses, or if not second guesses, he turns his gaze away. It's not that he turns his look away from Jesus, it's that he looks to other things. Mm-hmm. It is not within man to do what?
Two masters.
Yeah, you can't serve two masters. You can't direct your own steps. Could Peter walk on water without? No. When Peter turned... Yes, sir.
Could our storm today that distracts us be politics or world peace or,
All the above.
all the different things that distract us and, causes us to fear? Okay, what is the country going to come to? What is my children going to have to survive with, or what are have to deal with? I mean, it causes us to worry when we focus on those things. Speaking for myself as well. But
Yes. Well, I mean, it comes with it, but you just have to do what? What are we seeing?
focus ahead on Christ.
On the one thing that truly is the only thing that's going to save you. When Peter turned his gaze from Jesus to the storm in the world, he began to falter. Like we said, it's not that he looked away from Jesus, but it's that he looked to something other than Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. John 14:6. No one comes to the Father except through him. That's exclusive. Quickly, 31, 32, and 33. And immediately, again, we see immediately, we just saw it in verse 27. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him. That's Peter. So Jesus caught Peter and said to him, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand. I find it curious. Who's drowning or going down? Who's sinking? Who's going into the water? But who reached out his hand?
Jesus.
Peter probably did too. The Lord help me,
Yeah. Yeah, he may have. I mean, he may have been flailing and doing who knows what. But we definitely know who is always there with an outstretched hand. Jesus. Peter was sinking, but Jesus reached out. It's not. Is that not the same with Jesus reaching out to us today? Yes.
That's a painful thing that Jesus said to him.
Okay.
Which could fit all of us. Some point.
Why'd you doubt? Why didn't you just trust me? Yeah, that is. But to echo what Brother Eddie was just saying, that's the same with us today and everyone when we're sinking in sin, when we're sinking in the world, when we're worried about anything other than what we truly should be. 32, and when they got into the boat, the wind did what?
Cease.
Ceased. Cease and desist. Stop. Immediately quit. Like we said, not a little bit going on over there, it just all of it. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, that's Jesus, saying, Truly you are the Son of God. Did Jesus' miracles here help instill and help develop the disciples' faith?
Yes.
Oh yes. And by extension ours as well.